What's up guys, Drew here, and today I'm doing this tag. I believe it's called 20 questions about my practice. I'm not sure. I'll try to figure that out before I title the video. I saw this on Raquel's channel, the Barefoot Taurus. I'm not sure who did it originally, I can't remember, but I'll link her video, and I know she has a link to the original. So question number 1 is, what is your spiritual practice and what inspired you to start one? I have a video called A Peek Into My Path. I'll try to remember to link it in case anyone's interested. So I'm not really going to get into what inspired me. I had what I refer to as a spontaneous shamanic initiation. And I add the word spontaneous because there are different ways to be initiated. And one of them is to become deathly ill. And that's what happened to me. I was not seeking that path. I didn't know anything about it. As I said, I go into all that in that video. If anyone is interested, check it out. But basically, my path was thrust onto me. I did not seek the path that I am on. I was seeking a path, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. Number 2 is, what have you learned most about in your practice? And that would be crystals and herbs. They are 2 staples in my practice and 2 of the things that I have delved the deepest into. Number 3 is, if you could study about any other practice, what would it be and why? So if we're talking practice, study about another practice. I find hoodoo and voodoo very interesting, but I don't know that I've been called to that. So I can't come up with an answer, honestly. It's really hard. I'm not aware of it, I guess, whatever it is. There are so many different kinds of witchcraft from all over the world, and I find them all fascinating. So that's really difficult. Number 4 is, what do you find most challenging about your practice? What I find most challenging about my personal practice, and this is not with regards to witchcraft per se, it bleeds into witchcraft though, it's that I'm on my own, that I'm traveling blind on my path. I can read books all day long and I get information from that, but it always comes back, as it should, to what resonates with me as far as what I take. But anytime I am seeking out advice or teaching and I get a reading, whether that be from myself or someone else, the answer is stop looking out, look within. And so I keep getting the information that the material world is not going to help me on my path. As much as I might like it to. That the answers are not going to be just given to me. And while I get that, and that's really beautiful, it's really frustrating. So that is the thing that is most challenging for me on my path, is that I have nowhere to seek answers. I mean, I could, but, and they could be of benefit, but ultimately it always comes back to me and I'm on my own. I find it very frustrating. Number 5, if you have a significant other, do they know about your practice and how do they feel about it? Well, my husband, as many of you may know, is also a practicing witch, so he thinks it's great. Number 6 is, what do you want to learn most about your practice? Again, I have to go back to this inner thing. I want to find a deeper, my path, ultimately, the direction that I am trying to head in is self-mastery, the mastery of self. Knowing myself fully and being fully present and in control, not being reactive, things like that. And so just a deeper knowing of myself and delving deeper into myself is really the thing that I want most. Number 7 is, what other areas of your practice do you want to learn more about? And I could never know enough about crystals, ever. Also, if I had a better memory than I do, I would want to learn about astrology. I'd want to know much more about astrology. Number 8 is, what area of your practice interests you the least? Divination. I like it. I use tarot and oracle, oracle in particular, on a regular basis. I only scry on very rare occasions. I only use my pendulum on even rarer occasions. I am just not nearly as drawn to divination as most witches are. I'm really not at all. Oh. Number 9 is, top 3 favorite books about your practice. That is a ridiculous question. Let me just, hold on. I find this question beyond difficult to answer. So I've just grabbed I just quickly grabbed some because there are so many that the first ones that came to me. The Big Blue Book of Stones, this is the second edition. I have both the first and second. They do have some different crystals in them, but they have mostly the same crystals in them. This is invaluable to me. I love this. This book, Crystal Personalities by Patricia Troyer. This one is by Robert Simmons and Naisha Asayan, with contributions from Hazel Raven. At any rate, these two books, as far as crystals go, they are my main go-to. I have lots of other crystal books, but these are my two main go-tos. As far as shamanism goes, this is probably my favorite. The Cosmic Serpent, DNA and the Origin of Knowledge. I love this because this is just the coolest book ever. Like it literally blew my brain box open. I have lots of books about shamanism, not as many as I do witchcraft, but so this is where science and spirituality meet, kind of. And I'm not going to get into it because it's so complicated, but it's just so fascinating. So just for example, in the context here, Forest Television is chapter 1. Chapter 2 is Anthropologists and Shamans. Chapter 3 is the mother of tobacco is a snake. Chapter 3 is Enigma and Rio. Chapter 7 is Myths and Molecules. Chapter 8 is Through the Eyes of an Ant. It's just really fascinating. There are people who are practitioners and they take ayahuasca and they paint what it is they see while they are on their little journey. Jeremy Narby, the author who has his PhD, he might be an anthropologist and some other things, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he went and saw a molecular scientist and showed him one of the paintings, and the scientist was like, oh yeah, that's DNA right there, and those are molecules, and this is what DNA looks like when you unravel it, the first strand, and the whole picture looked like things that you see when you break things down on a molecular level, that you would look at in a microscope. And this is the visions that these people are getting, that are widely reported from people who regularly use ayahuasca in their practice. I believe he goes to the Amazon when he does this. It's been so long since I read the book, but it's just extremely fascinating. There's just so much in here, and it's been so long since I read it, now I want to read it again. This is one of my go-tos for sure. Then, as far as witchcraft goes, one of my favorites go-to is this Grimoire for the Green Witch by Anne Mora. I love Anne Mora, anything that she does. Of course, there are a million other books, but this, you can see that it's this is a highly referenced book. It's highlighted all in, and I love this book. I use it a lot. And then lastly, again, this is more than 3, but The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 1 and 2. This is all sacred geometry. It is by Drunvalo Melchizedek. Again, pretty worn out, and I absolutely love that. And sacred geometry adds a very deep, important layer to my practice. Long-winded answer, I apologize. Number 10 is, what was your first altar setup? I actually have a picture I will insert. My first altar and my first ritual, actually, I knew nothing about witchcraft whatsoever. Again, I had just come out of this spontaneous shamanic initiation, and everything was just guided. I kept getting messages. It was like someone was banging me in the head. You need to do a ritual. You need to, whatever. And so I just took things that I had around the house for the most part and set up this altar. I knew nothing about that kind of thing. I had no formal training. I had not read anything about anything really at that point. So that was my first altar. It was just intuitive. First altar tool you bought or received is question 11. It was a gong. I don't use a gong in my practice at all, and I really think that was just a way to get me to... It's a complicated story, but I found witchcraft because of the gong. I went looking for it. They kept telling me you need a gong, and I'm like, I still wasn't fully recovered. I didn't want to go out. I only knew one store I could go to try to find a gong, and again, I'm being bashed over the head with this message, so I finally just went and ended up meeting the boss lady, Elle, who owned Compass Rose, and developing a relationship with her. I worked there for several years, and that's how I was sort of introduced to witchcraft. Number 12 is, do you have a BOS? If so, describe it. I do not call it a book of shadows, but yeah, I have what I call a grimoire, same thing. Mine is digitally done. For one, I cannot make it look the way I want it to look with my own hand. I don't have that good of artistic ability or handwriting. If I used line paper, I mean, there are ways I could have done it, but it never have looked the way I wanted it to look. So I decided to do it on the computer. Plus, my eyesight gets worse every 2 years. I have glasses. I need them to read. Also, if I'm going to be driving at night, that kind of thing, and my eyesight is only going to get worse. So I wanted it to be something that was going to be legible for the rest of my life, because I've been diagnosed with a short-term memory disorder. My memory is not great. So I constantly need to reference things and look back at things. So having a grimoire is very important to me. It is leather bound. I made it all from scratch. Every single piece of it I made. And I did so by using a video that's up on YouTube. I'll try to remember to leave a link to that. I also have a grimoire video up, of course. I will also try to leave a link to the 2 videos I have about my grimoire on my channel right now. Number 13, what content do you put in your BOS? Anything that is important to me on my path. So, I mean, I put things, I have like the color correspondences there. I have like daily astrological influence, because that's really important to me. I have like the witch's sigil wheel and the Theban alphabet, and I have all my recipes, well, most of my recipes. That's always growing and changing. All the herbs that I work with and what they're associated with. I have things about sacred geometry and platinum ray energy, just things that are also unique to me in my practice. Anything that is important to me. Number 14 is, where do you keep your BOS? Right here. I have my desk set up, and these are the books that I reference most. Actually, the Anne Mora book goes right here. And then right on top lives my grimoire. So this is my grimoire that I made and I'm still working on. Number 15, what do you do in your practice that is unique to you? It's not necessarily that the things that I do are unique, it's maybe how I do them that's unique. I do shamanic journey. The way that I set that up and set the stage and the atmosphere for that, I think, is unique to me in a way. I use a lot of crystals and I make a crystal grid. I think the thing that might be most unique to me, and again, it's not really gonna be unique, but is the way that I call the quarters, when I call the quarters, because I really only do that during special rituals. So I like to call to the watchtower. So I call to the watchtower of whatever direction it is. I call the archangel in that I work with, that I associate with that direction, and I pronounce their names. For instance, I don't say Archangel Michael, I say Archangel Michael. I call in the element, so the element earth, air, fire, water. I call in the spirits, and when I do that, so for instance, like water, the spirits of psychic ability, dreams, and the occult, and whatever I say. And I don't necessarily say the same thing every time. It's whatever I feel in that moment, I call that spirit in. So yeah, that might be, I don't know. Again, I don't think that I do anything that nobody else does. I just maybe do it in a way that other people don't do. Number 16. Oh, Lord. Top 5 crystals, herbs, oils, and why? All right, well, one of my go-tos with oils for sure is cedar wood oil. I love cedar, so I use that oil quite a bit. I mean, I like to make my own oils. Like, I have lots of essential oils and I use them regularly. I clean my house with lavender and thyme essential oils, and I do that both for their physical cleansing properties and their magical properties. I also use clove oil when cleaning the house, but I like to make my own oils. So like I have a black cat oil and I have a drawing oil, and those are go-tos for me too. Top 5 herbs. I use tonka bean a lot. I love tonka bean. I love highjohn. I love lemon balm. Anything I can grow myself. Lemon balm, rosemary, mint, that grow really well. Basil. I really like yarrow. And top 5 crystals, really? Okay, well, quartz amethyst, lodestone, citrine, moldavite for my own personal moldavite for sure. And I could name a million more because I work very extensively with crystals on a regular basis. But I'm trying to be good. Number 17 is favorite item of witchy clothing or jewelry and why. I do not have any witchy clothing at all. No. And I have lots of jewelry that I would describe as witchy. I guess I'm wearing one of my favorite pieces right here. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it. Oh, yep, you can. It's the flower of life carved into a piece of quartz. Sacred geometry. Very important to me. But I have, one day if anyone's interested, I'll show my jewelry because I have a ton of jewelry. I worked in a metaphysical witchy shop. I bought lots of jewelry. And I don't even have everything that I always did. Gotten rid of pieces here and there, but I have lots of jewelry. Number 18 is, what is your familiar or animal spirit guide? Okay, I do not have a familiar. The golden eagle is my spirit animal. And again, I'm not really going to get into that. My peek into my path video, I talk all about the weirdness around how I figured that out. 19. Do you prefer to do ritual work outdoors or indoors? And I love both. I absolutely love both. I've talked about this before, but I have done ritual work on the beach, like espit celebrations, ritual on the beach many times in the middle of the night, all alone on the beach with just, my husband and Elle, my boss lady that I used to work for. Beautiful, beautiful. We've gone out into the middle of the woods because where I live, you have the Croatan Forest and you have the beach. They're right there. You can go either way. So out into the woods and, done midsummer rituals and it's been magical and beautiful. I love, if you've got the right atmosphere going, an outdoor ritual is amazing. But indoor ritual can be really, really beautiful and powerful too. But I'd have to say my favorite, most powerful memories when it comes to doing ritual are outdoors. And number 20, we're finally done. What do you use to represent the 4 elements in your ritual work? And that's any number of things, honestly. I use, for water, I will use water. I will use seashells. I'll use crystals that, like aquamarine, something that makes me think of water or has properties that align with that. I will also use statuary. Like I have this little mermaid statue and I could use that. It wouldn't bother me a bit. Earth, obviously dirt, graveyard dirt, soil from my yard, special dirts or sands, even sands from special places, what have you. I often use petrified wood for earth. So any kind of natural bit, it could be herbs, it could be sticks and stones, all kinds of crystals. Air, again, I will use a crystal for any of them if it resonates, if it goes. I've used cinnabar for fire many times. So crystals. Air, I'll often use feathers, a fan, like a hand fan. I mean, anything that I have on hand that will go, I will use. Fire, I like to use metal for fire a lot. I often use a knife. I like to use a knife to represent fire. But of course, I could use a candle or any other thing. Oh, incense, either for fire or air for me, honestly. More air than fire, but it is on fire. It requires fire. Literal fire, anything and everything. If I feel like it resonates with the element, I will use it. So yeah, guys, that's it. Went on far too long. I will edit it down as far as I can. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you haven't done this tag and you have a channel, please do. I would love to watch. And as always, until next time, much love and gratitude.